Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for October 6, 2022, the worst CCO ever edition. And that story comes to us from the Wall Street Journal, who tells us that Frances Townsend, the CCO at Activision Blizzard, is stepping down. For those who don't remember, after Activision Blizzard became embroiled in a sexual harassment scandal, Townsend responded by attacking the claims in the lawsuit in an email to all employees, where she defended the company. Said the lawsuit painted a, quote, distorted and untrue picture, end quote, of the company. Employees described her response as abhorrent and insulting. She turns out that the email she sent out was drafted by the company's CEO, Bobby Kotick, who sent it out over her name. So in the annals of CCO-dom, she certainly has a unique place. Next up, from the FT, or rather Reuters, a list of Credit Suisse scandals, including spies, lies, and money laundering. Credit Suisse is still in the throes of a biggest challenge, and it's been hurt by a stock slump and skepticism about its financial health. Of course, its problems are largely regulatory and all brought on by themselves. Next up, from the National Catholic Register, an analysis of the testimony in the Vatican corruption trial points to a new key question: that behind every decision in litigation, one can glimpse a power struggle, big or small, symptomatic or personal, going on in the Vatican, really for the soul of the Vatican. You might ask, why is the papacy having its soul battled over? And I think it's really about transparency in the light of day. Some want transparency and others don't. So whether the Vatican enters the 21st century or not, of course, is up to the Vatican. And it's going to be interesting to see which way they decide to go. But our final story does come from the FT, and this is a very interesting story that the biggest global accounting firms have been told to expect more scrutiny by U.S. regulators regarding their overseas affiliates. Big Four firms have always tried to claim that these affiliates are simply that. They're not a part of the corporate headquarters, but now the SEC is really going to look hard, and of course that means the PCAOB as well, certainly over the quality of their audits, but also much of their consulting work, particularly around South Africa, comes to mind. So I think the big firms are about to get a lot more scrutiny from U.S. regulators. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.